historical view of Altar is it was perceived to be too low grade. Previous drilling, we don't think really actually reached the highest grade portions of the ore body. And that the guys, Roger and Stan, were instrumental in finding a new higher grade discovery 3 kilometers away from where most of the concentrated drilling was. And there's still quite a large unexplored land package that's there. And that's what really kind of attracted us to the project. There's also a perception that it's got high arsenic contents. There are parts of the ore body that do have elevated arsenic, but there are large portions of it that do not. The area of focus for us is that we think there's potential for very large underground block cave target here where there's very little arsenic at depth. Arsenic in itself, for us, doesn't scare us. We've got projects in Peru where we've got a lot more arsenic than we have here, and there's a lot of companies working to crack that nut at this moment. There's a lot of copper resources in the world that are tied up in arsenical styles of mineralization. So there's a lot of companies working on patented technologies right now. So I think probably in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see some pretty major breakthroughs on that front. The other issue with Altar is that because it's in Argentina, historic events in Argentina not being really a mining focused country, and also the recent devaluation of the peso and just some things that have gone on in Argentina have kind of spooked people. But for us, we've worked in Argentina for more than 20 years. We understand Argentina's Argentina. And we do have projects, and Altar in particular is in San Juan, which is a very pro-mining province. So being in Argentina, we think in the future, the demand, as we've seen through many talks in the last day and a half, there's going to be a huge demand for copper, and there's not a lot of good projects in the pipeline available. And so I think people are going to go to Argentina, whether they like it or not, because that's where there's going to be some big discoveries. And there are some big deposits sitting there right now. So quickly, just to run you through the transaction that we've done with Sibanye-Stillwater, I think it's quite an innovative deal for us as a junior to be able to secure such a large project. Basically, Regulus will focus and keep its focus on its Peruvian asset, the Antacory project in northern Peru. Hubert Gamarra will talk about that this afternoon in Project Showcase. We will spin out our existing Argentine assets, which are Rio Grande, Aguas Calientes, and 4 other early-stage Argentine projects. Sibanye-Stillwater will spin out their Altar and through Peregrine Metals project. With that, we will create a new company that should be listed either late this week or next week, should be trading on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange, called Aldebaran Resources. Aldebaran has just raised $30 million by one of our strong backers of Regulus, and then Antares before that, Route 1 Investments out of San Francisco. $15 million cash payment will be made to Sibanye as part of the deal, and they will own 19.9% of the Aldebaran shares. With an additional $30 million of work in the ground, we can attain a 60% interest in the Altar project over the next 5 years. And then with an additional $25 million in the ground, we can assume an 80% ownership of the project. I don't expect you to read all this. The main points, I think, are the ones highlighted in magenta. Altar was originally sold by Peregrine Metals to Stillwater back in 2011 for $490 million US. And since that sale, Stillwater / Sibanye have put in an additional $45 million in drilling, geophysics, and other studies. Both Peregrine and Stillwater advanced the project as a very large, low-grade copper-gold deposit both when the initial sale in 2011 to Stillwater, and then subsequently Stillwater did some work and was pushing the same line of thought. We don't necessarily agree with that, and that's where we have a slight difference in geologic vision here. There are several zones of higher grade copper, and I'll show you some of those in a few minutes, and better metallurgy indicated in the old drilling, so that those zones need more follow-up work. They're open at depth. Some of them are open along strike, as you'll see. So we think there's ample room to produce quite a large but higher grade deposit here. And the thing that's also very interesting, if you look at this transaction and you just boil it down to the last 23 transactions of copper projects in the last 8 years, the median price paid for copper in the ground was roughly 4 cents. Back in 2011, Stillwater paid Peregrine roughly 3.6 cents a pound. We're picking up this project for 0.4 cents a pound. So at a significant discount to what the original cost of this project was. And that's the other thing that I think is very attractive for us. There's lots of room to add a lot of additional value. So just quickly what the new company structure will look like. Route 1 will own 42% of the new company, plus an additional 6% because of their existing ownership in Regulus. Regulus shareholders will own 32%, and Sibanye will own 20%. Just in terms of where the project's located, we're here in San Juan province. Our other projects are also in a mining-friendly jurisdiction in northern Argentina, in Salta and Jujuy. And then here's a blow-up map of the San Juan district. The Altar project is located very close to the Chilean border, about 25 kilometers northeast of Las Palambres in Chile, and also Pechon in Argentina, and just to the south of Los Azules to the north of us. So we're in a cluster here of world-class giant porphyry systems. The current updated resource, and because of the project being spun out into a new publicly traded entity, we needed to update the Stillwater resource, which was not 43-101 compliant. We haven't done anything. This is their work, but this is the current resources that are compliant in 43-101 of 2 billion tons of measured and indicated at a very low copper grade, 0.33, and roughly 0.08 gold, and then an additional 500 million tons roughly of a lower grade copper. So you can see it's quite large but low grade the way it's portrayed. We would contend this is one view of the Altar world, but it's not necessarily our view. And so that's what we'll be working on over the next few years, is to try to readjust the view of the outside world to what Altar really is and unlock some, I think, significant value here. To put it into context with other deposits and other projects that haven't been developed, you can see that the ones I've circled here in red are all the current copper projects in the world that are held by juniors. All the rest are held by either mining companies, majors, or intermediate-sized companies. So the red ones are the ones that are potentially available for some kind of a transaction in the future. And you can see that we're quite fortunate in our group that of the 6 that are listed here, we control or will control 2 of them. The Antiquary project in Peru and the Altar project in Argentina. I don't expect to see all the details here, but really to focus on the bottom 2 here. Altar's got a very large resource, as it's now stated. There's close to 14 billion pounds of copper, so it's up there with some of the giants. And if you look at the cost basis for us, it's 0.4 cents a pound, and you can see how that stacks up. So we're getting it at a fairly significant, almost a 10 cents on the dollar discount here. So a bit of the history. The project was originally discovered back in the late 90s by CRA, the predecessor for Rio Tinto. They drilled the first holes, decided that it wasn't really going to meet their criteria. They did an option deal with Peregrine Metals, Eric Friedland and company, and basically Peregrine worked on the project till 2011, earning into 100% ownership of that project from Rio Tinto. Peregrine then was acquired by Stillwater, as I mentioned, for $490 million. They continued to do more drilling. They drilled an additional 97,000 meters of drilling. But in 2013, there was a bit of a shareholder revolt. Stillwater, being a PGE-focused North American company, their shareholders weren't too happy that they were in a foray into copper in the middle of Argentina. The board and throughout the senior management, and the asset was declared non-core. But fortunately, Stan and Roger were still able to do exploration through 2014, 2015. In 2016, they drilled the QDM radioporphyry area that led to a new discovery located 3 kilometers from the main porphyry center. 2017, Sibanye Gold from South Africa purchased Stillwater. They still retained 100% interest in the project, but became even more non-core asset for them because of that purchase. But they managed, again, Stan and Roger managed to get more funding and continued to drill some additional holes at their new discovery. And I'll show some results quickly of that. In spring of 2018, we were looking at this under confidentiality. We really liked the project and convinced Sibanye to actually continue to drill some deep holes, deeper than it would have ever been drilled there before, with the understanding that if we got the projects, that we would reimburse them the costs of that drilling. And in fall of this year, we've announced the agreement was finalized for us to acquire an option to earn into 80% of the project. To date, there's been 251 drill holes totaling 113,000 meters of drilling. We did a rough calculation. For us to re-drill all those holes would cost us somewhere in the range of $75 million. So we're actually paying less for it than what it costs to re-drill all the holes. This is just a picture showing the camp location here at 3,000 meters, and you can see the Altar Central and Altar East, the tops up here at roughly 4,100 meters. There's a 12,000 hectare set of claims, so we've got a large land package here to work with, and there's no communities on site. Just want to show you now a little bit about the geology. This is a long section I'm going to show you. So this is Altar East, Altar Central, Altar North, and then the new discovery in 2016 by the guys at QDM radioporphyry. Okay? And note this 3-kilometer gap in here. What you're seeing here is a fine dusting of snow on the high peaks here when this Google Earth image was taken. So this is a long section, so you can see Altar East. And what you see plotted here in the colors are the copper equivalent grades, and the ones to really focus on are the ones in yellow and above. And you can see the supergene enrichment blanket here. You can see the leach cap, and then you can see some of their deep holes with some very nice, interesting-looking high grades of copper equivalent here. Okay. And then you'll see the original upper gold-rich QDM discovery, and then they drilled some deeper holes over here and, again, started to come into some deeper, higher-grade mineralization with boronite here. And you can see this 3-kilometer gap. Okay, but we'll come back and we'll revisit this in a minute. So just to go through some of the results of some of the historic drilling, this is just a cartoon geology map. You can see Altar Central here, Altar East. What I've done here is I've just looked at intercepts that were greater than 400 meters to 500 or 500 to 930 meters. So very long intercepts with these average copper equivalent grades using a 0.2 copper equivalent cutoff. And you can see they form clusters where there's higher grade and long intercepts. So if we go to Altar East, or Central, sorry, you can see some of the historic holes with some very nice grades, 853 meters of 0.64, 819 meters of 0.7, 800 meters of 0.73, and the list goes on, and this is by no means a complete list. But the thing that really caught my attention when we were doing the due diligence is there was numbers of holes that bottomed in some very nice grades. 11 meters of almost 1%, 9 meters of 0.7% or 0.66%, and there's many more of holes that clearly weren't drilled deep enough. If we go to Altar East, it's a similar story. You can see 900 meters of 0.62, 880 meters of 0.76, blah, 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 blah. Same thing, several holes that caught our attention that bottomed in 11 meters of 1.1%, 10 meters of 0.8%, 10 meters of 0.9%. Okay? So lots of room at depth to expand the resource. Same thing over at the QDM radioporphyry. Some very nice long intercepts of good grade material, dominantly gold near the top, but some of the later drilling showing that there's some significant intercepts here of 372 meters of almost 1% copper equivalent at depth, and those are open. This is what some of the rocks look like. You can see beautiful UST textures in some of the upper parts of the deposit. You can also see multiple stage veining with potassic alteration. Here you can see cross-cutting veins, some of the best stock working I've seen. We can see evidence of multiple vein events with veins being truncated, assimilated by later porphyry phases. Very complex history, which we think needs to be better understood and better unraveled. And the other key observation, and I think I have it on the next one, is we see these late sulfide veins cutting across all the early quartz veins, and these are bringing in very high grades of greater than 1% copper and 1 gram gold with no arsenic. This is an intercept from one of the historic holes. The overall intercept was almost 880 meters of 0.76 copper equivalent. You can see the arsenic content here. But the key thing is it's cross-cut by these late anhydrite, chalcopyrite, plus or minus bornite veins. And this 16-meter section right here, which had quite a few of these later overprinting veins, ran 16 meters of 0.9 copper and almost 0.5 gold. So very nice grades and beautiful style of mineralization. So, quick review here. We've still got a few minutes to talk about some of the results of our 2018 drilling that was done by Sibanye-Stillwater. But with our guidance, we had 2 of our geologists on site during the entire drill program, monitoring what was going on. We drilled basically 4 1,500-meter deep holes, 2 over here in Altar East, 1 under here in Altar Central, and then another one under here at QDM. And you'll see that this was really meant to be just the first stage drilling to provide us with some baseline deep penetration points into the deposit to help us with future work moving forward. So drill hole 190 here had some interesting intercepts here. You can see almost 583 meters of 0.557 copper equivalent, and then a deeper intercept here of 250 meters of 0.62. Drill hole 209 was quite a good drill hole. Hit over 1,000 meters of 0.6 copper equivalent, with a higher grade portion in here of almost 450 meters of 0.84. And more importantly, near the bottom of the hole, the last 22 meters or so, finished in 0.75 copper equivalent. So it's still open to depth. Drill hole 10, unfortunately, the hole was lost at 1,263 meters. The last sample in that drill hole ran 0.8% copper equivalent. But needless to say, it still did encounter mineralization, but near the upper part here, it was a little bit lower grade. And then finally, QDM 39, unfortunately, went into a post-mineral dike towards the bottom of the hole. So we didn't hit any mineralization down at the depth we hoped to, but it still intercepted almost 800 meters of 0.54 And the most important part here is that before it went into the post-mineral dike, there was almost 95 meters here of 0.62 copper equivalent. So in summary, there's obviously the new company between this project. I didn't really have time to talk about the other projects we have because we just don't have time. However, we've got a long-term optionality in terms of our resources. There's a significant current mineral inventory, both Altar and Rio Grande, and all of them have room for significant expansion. Upside potential, we're in the process right now of commencing a very intensive relogging program at Altar. We think that with that reinterpretation and different geologic modeling, that we'll be able to better isolate what the controls on the higher grade are and where the cleaner ore is. There's a lot of geologically intriguing zones at Altar that merit follow-up. And then one thing I forgot, I'm just going to go back here if I can, is the other the other thing that was quite interesting is that when our geos were up monitoring this drill program, they did a transect across this barren area in here, and they found some significant copper oxides on surface right here on the side of this high peak. So there's potential here that there's still something to be found underneath this area. So lots of upside potential. We've also got, like I said, the Rio Grande project, which we think has significant upside for high-grade mineralization at depth. And we've got a new interpretation of the Aguas Calientes epithermal vein district. We've got basically 7 kilometers of very well mineralized float boulders that are coming out of a paleo unconformity. And so we think that there's a thinly covered buried epithermal district there that is drill ready. We've got permitting, and hopefully very soon we'll be commencing drilling there. We have an experienced management team with a history of discovery and creating shareholder value in South America. We've got very strong financial support of Route 1, who is a longtime shareholder of both Antares and Regulus. We have very good on-the-ground exploration teams in Argentina, both with our Regulus Argentina crew and the crew that we're inheriting from Peregrine Metals. And we've got collectively more than 20 years of working experience in Argentina. So just before we go, this is a plug for a foundation that my wife and I started, just to let everybody know that we do helping children, underprivileged families and children here in Chile that have cancer. We do our annual exploration and mining charity golf tournament and beach crawl. This year it will be February 22nd to 23rd in La Serena, Coquimbo. I strongly urge, if you're interested, you don't have to be a golfer, please drop by. There's a booth next door. Drop your business card off. We'll put you on the mailing list and keep you informed about when we're having the tournament. And there's quite a few people here I know that have been to it, so they can attest to how much fun they didn't have. So thank you for your attention, and hopefully you can see that with Aldebaran Resources, we're creating a preeminent Argentina-based exploration company. Thanks.